So let's dive in. The economic landscape in Michigan between, 2020 and 2025, it was just completely saturated.
It was a flood.
A flood of COVID relief money, the huge CARES and ARPA funds. And that massive injection of capital, while, it was necessary.
Of course.
It created what forensic investigators are calling a low-friction environment. It just blew past the state's internal controls.
Exactly. Which brings us to this term, grant milling.
Right.
It's basically the professionalized operation of diverting federal pass-through funds.
Right.
Money that moves from D.C. to the state and then out to nonprofits.
And then into shell entities.
It focused on agencies like health, education, and labor, the main pass-through points.
Okay, so let's break down the mechanics. The audit's first big red flag was something they called the newcomer filter. This was for organizations that, they didn't even exist before 2020, but somehow got huge funding within 18 months. And what's fascinating here is just the sheer speed. We're talking about groups going from $0 to $1 million in revenue in less than 2 fiscal cycles.
How is that even possible?
A lot of it was fueled by non-competitive programs. Things like the child care stabilization grants, which, essentially became an open door for almost every applicant.
Regardless of their history. And the shell test proves they weren't really doing the work, right?
Absolutely. They flagged entities that got over $500,000 but had no functional website, no signage.
I saw some were operating out of mailboxes or residential basements.
Exactly. And you just have to look at the long-term care ombudsman program audit. It found they failed to visit 99.5% of the facilities they were paid to monitor.
99.5%. That's not a failing service.
That's a non-existent one. It raises a huge question about oversight.
And when you zoom out, you see the blueprint for how they scaled it.
Yes, the clustered addresses. Multiple high-funding entities all registered to a single residential address or a shared office suite, especially in Detroit and Oakland County.
It's a multi-brand strategy, basically, to get around the funding limits per location.
And that structure leads directly to board stacking.
Where you have a tiny group of people, like 3 to 5 individuals,
right,
controlling this huge network of organizations across completely different sectors: childcare, home health, medical transport.
And here's where it gets really, really interesting. The administrative drain. A typical nonprofit might spend, 5 to 7% on management?
That's standard, yeah.
These high-risk entities spent between 35 and 45%. They call it management fee arbitrage.
Wait, so up to half the federal relief money was just paying the CEO's other company?
That's the model. It's not overhead. It's extraction through affiliated LLCs.
And this whole systemic gap just gets worse with the revolving door dynamic.
It does. Former state administrators were joining the boards of the very nonprofits they used to fund.
So they had inside knowledge of the state's grant portal, eGrants. They knew exactly how to game the system they just left.
And that expedite over integrity mindset was everywhere. The Auditor General's report on the UIA Unemployment Agency confirmed it.
Right.
They said, and I'm quoting here, they removed many of its fraud detection and prevention controls just to speed up payments.
So the state was actively turning off the lights to move faster.
And it led to over $10 billion in unsupported payments.
And finally, there's this political nexus, a clear correlation between these new high-growth grant recipients and them suddenly becoming major donors to state-level PCACs.
And the audit noted that this whole playbook, it's startlingly similar to the Feeding Our Future scandal up in Minnesota.
How so?
They both used what's called a buffer check. They use organizations that serve vulnerable populations, say immigrant or underserved communities, to justify not having rigorous financial documents.
It provides an ethical shield.
Exactly. It shields the operation from scrutiny. And it suggests this isn't just a Michigan problem. It's a national scalable model for exploiting federal money.
So what does this all mean? The audit reveals a profound structural integrity gap. It's what happens when a tsunami of capital hits antiquated systems. And the question for you to really think about is this. If we know management fee arbitrage is the main way they extract the money, where nearly half the funds go to insiders, what kind of oversight, beyond an audit after the fact, could actually stop that from the very start?